Inside a luxury car at night, she sat in complete silence while city lights rushed past her window. Neon reflections slid across the glass, softly lighting her distant eyes. The world outside moved fast, full of life and energy, yet inside she felt frozen. Surrounded by comfort and wealth, she carried a loneliness no one could see. Each breath felt heavy, as if an invisible weight pressed against her chest, reminding her that fame could not protect her from isolation. Millions admired her face, her talent, and her perfect image, yet none truly knew her. Cameras captured her smile, but never the fear hiding behind it. Every word she spoke was controlled, every emotion carefully measured. Slowly, the girl she once was began to fade, replaced by an image built for public approval. Fame promised freedom, but instead, it built invisible walls around her life, trapping her inside expectations she could never escape. Late at night, she stared through rain-covered glass, watching strangers live simple lives she could no longer touch. Raindrops raced downward like silent tears she refused to release. Memories of her past drifted through her thoughts, reminding her of a time when dreams felt pure. Now, even breathing required effort. The distance between who she was and who she had become continued to grow, leaving her lost between reality and illusion. Luxury rooms felt colder than empty streets. Silence followed her everywhere, whispering doubts into her mind. Every bright light created deeper shadows, and every success added more pressure. Applause faded quickly, replaced by exhaustion and confusion. Somewhere along the journey, her identity dissolved, leaving behind a hollow reflection. The world believed she lived inside a dream, but her reality felt like a carefully decorated prison. Backstage, her hands trembled as she gripped the microphone. Beyond the curtain, thousands waited, their voices rising like distant thunder. Inside her chest, fear roared louder than the crowd. The spotlight demanded perfection, while her heart begged for escape. Each step forward felt heavier than the last, as if unseen chains pulled her backward. Yet she knew once she walked onto that stage, there would be no turning back. Crew members rushed past, their movements sharp and mechanical, while cables tightened around her hands. Voices echoed directions she barely heard. Everything around her felt controlled, precise, and rehearsed. In that moment, she realized her life no longer belonged to her. Every decision, every breath, and every step had been planned by others. She was no longer living freely, she was performing. Survival. Camera flashes exploded as the curtain trembled, flooding the space with blinding light. The noise collapsed into a single overwhelming heartbeat. Thousands of eyes waited, expecting magic and confidence. Yet inside, fear tightened its grip. She lowered her head, gathering strength she barely had left, preparing herself to become the version of herself the world demanded, even if it meant losing who she truly was. As the curtain lifted, applause surged through the arena, lights burned, music thundered, and her body moved on instinct. Every step, every gesture, followed years of training. The crowd saw power and beauty, but inside she felt fragile and empty. She became a reflection of expectations, not her own identity. With each performance, she drifted further away from herself, disappearing behind the spotlight. When the final note faded, silence returned faster than expected. The stage emptied, and the echoes of applause dissolved into memory. Backstage, exhaustion consumed her. Glittered costumes hung lifeless, and mirrors reflected a face she barely recognized without the spotlight. There was no distraction, only loneliness. In those quiet moments, reality struck hardest, reminding her of everything she had sacrificed. Endless hallways stretched before her, lit by cold artificial light. Smudged makeup stained tables, abandoned shoes rested near empty chairs, and torn stage passes scattered across the floor. Each object whispered stories no one wanted to hear. Success surrounded her, yet she felt invisible. Even in silence, the pressure remained, shaping a world where isolation became permanent. Contracts lay waiting under harsh lights, their pages filled with words she barely understood. Fine print blurred before her tired eyes, yet signatures were demanded without hesitation. Managers stood nearby, their shadows stretching across the room. Every agreement tightened control, shrinking her freedom piece by piece. What once felt like opportunity slowly transformed into obligation binding her life to promises she never fully chose. Pens hovered above paper as her hands trembled. Each signature felt heavier than the last, sealing decisions that shaped her future. With every contract, control tightened, leaving less space for choice. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. She realized freedom was slipping through her fingers. Traded silently for success, security, and approval, the cost was invisible but painfully real. Pressure built silently until her emotions began to fracture. Tears gathered, yet she forced them away, unwilling to show weakness. Cameras, lights, and expectations allowed no room for vulnerability. The world demanded strength. Even as her spirit grew exhausted behind closed doors, her battles remained unseen. Fought quietly in isolation, far from the applause and admiration of the crowd. One moment she stood beneath blinding lights, the next her vision blurred as emotions overwhelmed her. Tears spilled despite her efforts to control them. The microphone slipped from her grasp, crashing onto the floor, echoing through the empty space. That sound marked a breaking point. A crack in the flawless image the world believed in. Silence followed, heavy and unavoidable. Locked doors closed behind her, sealing the space in cold finality. Metal clicks echoed through the hallway, signaling restriction and loss of control. Her hands pulled desperately at the handle, but it refused to move. Shadows crept along the walls, while distant noise faded. In that moment, she understood the true meaning of captivity, hidden behind success and luxury. Long corridors stretched endlessly ahead as she walked alone, her footsteps echoing through the empty space. Each step felt heavier than the last, carrying exhaustion and despair. The walls seemed to close in, narrowing her path. Silence surrounded her, broken only by the hum of distant lights. Darkness slowly swallowed the hallway, mirroring the weight in her heart. She stopped before a mirror, staring at the reflection she barely recognized. Fear and fatigue clouded her eyes. The girl who once dreamed freely felt distant, almost forgotten. Sunlight streamed through a nearby window, briefly illuminating her face, reminding her of a life she once imagined. The moment faded quickly, leaving behind quiet sadness and longing. Memories of open fields, ocean winds, and carefree laughter drifted through her thoughts. For a moment, she felt weightless, moving freely beyond expectations, but reality returned, dimming those dreams. The reflection darkened, and silence settled once more. Freedom existed only in memory, a reminder of everything she had lost along the way. The empty stage stood in darkness, dust swirling beneath a flickering spotlight. Faint echoes of applause drifted through the space like distant memories. Once this stage felt alive, and now it felt abandoned. As the light dimmed, shadows reclaimed the room, and silence took control. The performance ended, but the story remained unfinished. Behind every success stood unseen sacrifice, every smile concealed exhaustion, and every achievement carried invisible pain. The world celebrated perfection, unaware of the cost. She stood between two realities, the image admired by millions and the fragile soul longing for peace. In that space, she continued searching for meaning, hoping one day to reclaim herself. Years passed, yet the weight never lifted. Fame followed her like a shadow, shaping every decision. Even in moments of rest, anxiety lingered. The fear of failure, judgment, and loss remained constant. Each step forward required courage, each breath demanded strength. Still, she moved ahead, carrying silent battles no one ever saw. Trust became difficult as control tightened around her world. Every promise felt uncertain, every opportunity carefully calculated. Boundaries blurred between care and manipulation. She learned to protect herself, yet isolation grew stronger. In protecting her heart, she built walls that separated her further from genuine connection and understanding. The journey transformed her, reshaping innocence into resilience. Pain became strength, and fear became discipline. Though scars remained, they taught her survival. Each challenge sharpened her awareness, revealing the harsh truths hidden behind fame. Through struggle, she began to rediscover her voice, determined not to let silence define her existence. Slowly, courage replaced hesitation. She questioned control, challenged expectations, and searched for freedom. The road remained uncertain, but hope flickered quietly. For the first time in years, she imagined a life shaped by her own choices. That thought alone sparked light within the darkness, reminding her that escape was still possible. Strength grew from suffering. Each obstacle strengthened her resolve, shaping a new sense of identity. She began reclaiming pieces of herself, one decision at a time, though fear lingered. Determination guided her forward. The path was difficult, but it finally belonged to her. And that changed everything. Freedom did not arrive suddenly, it unfolded slowly. Through patience and persistence, each step away from control felt uncertain yet empowering. The world still watched. But she no longer lived solely for approval. In that shift, she discovered peace within herself. Stronger than any spotlight. She learned to value silence, using it to heal rather than hide. Moments of solitude transformed into reflection, helping her rebuild trust in herself. The noise of fame softened, replaced by clarity. With time, she understood that true success meant reclaiming her voice, her choices, and her identity. The past no longer defined her future, though scars remained. They became symbols of survival. She embraced vulnerability as strength, allowing herself to feel deeply again. Each sunrise carried renewed purpose, reminding her that life extended beyond stages and applause. Her story evolved into resilience, inspiring others who felt trapped by expectation. Through honesty and courage, she transformed pain into empowerment. The journey remained complex, yet hope guided her forward, illuminating paths once hidden in darkness. In reclaiming her life, she discovered freedom within herself, not freedom from fame, but freedom from fear. That realization reshaped her world, allowing peace to replace pressure and purpose to replace confusion. The spotlight no longer controlled her narrative. Instead, she shaped it with intention. Each choice reflected authenticity, guiding her toward balance and clarity. In embracing truth, she reclaimed the power once taken from her. Silence transformed into healing, reflection became growth, and stillness. She found meaning beyond validation. The noise faded, and calm replaced chaos. For the first time, she felt truly present. Her journey stood as a reminder that strength is born from vulnerability, that even behind brilliance, shadows exist, and that freedom begins when courage overcomes fear. The stage stood empty once more, bathed in soft, fading light. Dust floated gently as echoes of applause disappeared. The spotlight dimmed, leaving behind silence, peace, and reflection. In the darkness, her story remained, not as tragedy, but as transformation, a journey from isolation to self-discovery, a reminder that even in silence, hope survives, and that freedom, once lost, can always be found again.